No matter what, if there's one thing that you can take from this presentation, I really want to urge you to make sure that you are regularly checking in and testing your backups. And this is important because what we've learned over time is that most businesses are performing some kind of backup. You know, if we go in and we're talking with a new business owner or manager and we say, what are you doing right now for your backup solutions? Most often we get an answer, well, we're taking care of it, but we don't get a lot of very technical response. So what I'm asking is, how often are you going to your IT vendor or your IT staff and saying, when is the last time that you tested our backups? Can I have proof of that? And are you confident that they are secure? I get off my soapbox. But so what should I look for in a disaster recovery solution, right? So like I was saying, there's disaster recovery and data backups. So data backups is the activity of backing up the data. But a disaster recovery solution is going to do a whole lot more for you than just back up your data. It's really going to be a tool that's going to help you, again, recover in the event of a disaster. So what should you be looking for? Number one, does your backup solution provide multiple backup options? So this is going to be important because depending on the environment that you have at your business, you may have certain elements of your network, certain data points on premises, on an on-prem server. You may have certain elements of your environment in your business in the cloud. Most often we see a variety of both. And so what you want to make sure is that whatever solution that you're using has the ability to support your business, support those backup functions, support that recovery, with respect to on-premises solutions and maybe cloud-based solutions. The other important thing is to make sure that if there are multiple options for you with respect to your data recovery solution. Some solutions offer the ability to have backups on site that are then also copied to the cloud. So there's many different options, and you just want to know you want to have a definitive understanding of how it works and where your data is stored. Second, can you virtualize your backups in an emergency? And what I mean by virtualize, so this also kind of builds on this whole idea of the difference between just a backup and a disaster recovery solution. So for instance, let's walk that example out where you come in the morning and the servers have crashed. So if, let's say, you had a server failure, and your backup solution as it stands right now was just, a backup on a hard drive or a disk of some type. The question is, what are you going to do with that data? You have it, which is fantastic, but what are you going to do with it? You need a device to help spin that up, so to speak, and make it usable for your team. So what we call that is virtualizing. So our disaster recovery solutions come with that capability built in, so that if there was a failure, if there was an event, we could simply virtualize your server either in the cloud or on an on-prem solution. And then while we were doing that back-end work to get either the server replaced or to figure out what happened, while we were doing that back-end work to help get you up and running, you would still be able to run your business, and that's very important. The third question is going to be, are your backups encrypted? So this is very important for many of the industries that we service, including medical, legal, financial, where there's a lot of compliance standards and expectations. So whatever you're doing to back up your data, you definitely want to make sure that it's encrypted, because if it gets into the hands of the wrong individuals, they would be able to access it and read it. And by encrypting it, we make sure that's not possible. So fourth, we've got, how often is your solution backing up your environment? And so what I mean by that, that's different than saying how often are we testing it. What I'm asking here is, how often are we taking snapshots or making copies of the data that we need to back up? For some businesses, that's once an hour. So sometimes it could be once a day. Our solution, I believe it can default to every 15 minutes. So that's something that you want to think about. How often do we want to be taking copies of our data? And then if you are offloading your data to the cloud, how often are we going to send that information, since that can sometimes have an impact on the bandwidth of your network. So the final question I'm going to throw out here, and this is not exhaustive by any means, these are just the ones that I think are the most important at a high level, but the final one is going to be, what applications and data sets need to be backed up? So again, we've talked about sometimes you may have an EMR solution in the cloud that doesn't necessarily need a backup, but you also may have, let's say, Office 365 or a cloud-based email solution, and oftentimes businesses assume that when they have those cloud-based solutions, they are being backed up, when in reality, these companies, and like I said, Office 365, G Suite, what they do is they use what's called a shared responsibility model. And what that means is that they're responsible rather for the stability and the security of the network and of the cloud infrastructure that you are using. So it's their responsibility to make sure that it's secure and it's always available. Uptime is important, but it's your responsibility to make sure that your data is good. So if you were to accidentally, let's say, delete a file or delete an email, you know, Microsoft and Google aren't going to be getting on the phone to help you recover that, right? You need to cover your disaster recovery and your data backups for those cloud solutions. And there are definitely things available to you.